And you all, the Christian, the gay, the farmer, the union member, the feminist, the black, the poor, the handicapped, the imprisoned, and the elderly who wrote and called us with your stories and your support. All of you were so kind to me. Don't lose faith just because we didn't win this time out. Ours is the eternal struggle between right and wrong, good and evil, freedom and slavery, light and darkness, understanding and ignorance. Our issues will not fade. They're not transitory. They are achievable at the election booth despite the fraud of those who oppose us. Gatewood Galbraith, page 169. The last free man in America. So this is Kentucky election year 2015. The election for governor of Kentucky is going to be huge. There's only 3 elections that's happening actually right now: the Mississippi governor, Louisiana governor, and then we're all going to jump into the 2016 presidential election. But first, Kentucky's going to pick Jeff Young as their governor, and once Jeff Young becomes governor, Kentucky will be the richest and the greenest state in the world, definitely in the United States, but even in the world. It'd be lucrative. Workers will be making more money. The corporations will be making more money. Everybody will be doing better and will be doing well. There won't be a coordination failure with the economics. We will make sure wages and jobs are being met up with the incoming industries and businesses. So I just want to do like a sort of overview with the Kentucky governor and lieutenant governor election. Essentially, the lieutenant governor doesn't have any constitutional powers. If something was to happen to the governor, they become the governor. But in the meantime, they're basically nobody. They sit at a meeting. They can help push legislation. You know, they could talk about different issues and build coalition. So there's different things that a lieutenant governor could do, but essentially there's such a non-position. It's almost like Sarah Palin, right? I mean, the vice president is important because they will become the next president. But if, I mean, I don't, that doesn't seem, that's important. Don't get me wrong. But most likely, there's only been one governor in the entire United States that has ever been assassinated. So the likelihood of that happening is very slim. And it would just be, you know, some sort of ailment or old age or something. So those are not likely to happen. So since none of those things are likely to happen, I'm not going to assume that it will happen. So my function would be like the vice president. What has Joe Biden done in the last 7 years? So basically do what Joe Biden does. Only do it, you know, with less gaffes. Have more, you know, be clean like Joe Biden, but less gaffes. Anyways, okay, let's get to the governor's election. So the governor's election is heating up. This is one day after the January 27th deadline to file for governor. So everybody who's going to run for governor has already filed, and these are the people that's in the race. Okay, so I do use Wikipedia and I use Ballotpedia. In fact, I like Ballotpedia better because it seems like they're smart experts. They seem to stay on the campaign, they stay on the race a lot longer, and with a lot more, I guess, political understanding than Wikipedia. So we have the gubernatorial election, right? The gubernatorial election. So far with the Democratic primary, you have Jack Conway, who is currently the Attorney General of Kentucky and nominee for the U.S. Senate in 2010. His running mate is Sandy Overly, a state representative for Kentucky currently right now. He is running against Jeff Young, who is a retired engineer and was a candidate for Kentucky's 6th Congressional District in 2014. He was also a state worker, and Jonathan Masters is running with him. That's me, Jonathan Masters. They actually misspelled my name. It's Johnathan, and then I also put D, Jonathan D. Masters. That's how it'll look on the ballot. But they already got that wrong. But big surprise, right? Media getting shit wrong. That seems to be, that's the only thing big media is consistent at, is getting stuff wrong. So Cherokee Shield was running with Jeff Young, but they had unreconcilable differences, so they parted ways. He needed a running mate. I was around, so here I am. And so that's who's running in the Democratic primary. The primary is going to be over May 17th, 27th, somewhere in May. And so for the next 4 months, I want to have a gentleman's conversation with Mr. Conway and Miss Overly, or Mrs. Overly, I want to have a friendly conversation, a Kentucky type of conversation that actually talks about what the problems are with Kentucky, and then what are those solutions? Where are we right now, and where do we want to be? And what do we got to do in order to get where we want to be? So that's the discussion that needs to be had. That needs to be had with everybody. That needs to be had with the Republicans, with the independents, with the Democrats, with the people. Everybody needs to be talking about what can make Kentucky better. Just raising our GDP. If we could just raise our GDP, we would have a better economy, just by definition. So raise your GDP. Every individual produce as much stuff as you can. The more you produce, the more GDP that's out there, the more you can sell. And that's, generally speaking, when you have a greater GDP, all the other standard of living indicators also rise with the GDP. So a lot of people declined. So I guess Jeff Young and Jack Conway, they are such strong candidates that Jerry Abramson, Ben Chandler, Adam Edelin, Greg Fisher, Allison Grimes, Crit Llewellyn, John Yarmouth, Rocky Atkins, Luther Deaton, Daniel Mangiardo, Greg Stumbo, all of these candidates declined. And I remember actually when Mitch McConnell was scared about losing his seat, he preemptively attacked every single Democrat that might run against him. Everybody. He just carpet bombed everybody with an attack ad, because that's Mitch's way. That's McConnelling. If you're going to go McConnelling, you get into attack politics. You remember when he quoted Curtis Morrison saying that he was like Nixonian? He tapped him like Nixon did. No, one's an activist and one's the government politician. If anything, the person who supports NSA, NDAA, wiretaps on our phones and on our email communications, that's Nixonian for the entire country. Not just Nixonian in the White House, because he was only recording the officials here, and it was J. Edgar Hoover recording everybody. But today, the NSA is knowingly collecting trillions, everybody's data, and the people are okay with that. Snowden, we don't care about Snowden. We haven't stood up and we haven't said, hey, we care about our freedom in this country and we're not going to take it anymore. We have not done that. We've accepted the Patriot Act, accepted NDAA, and the warrantless NSA wiretapping, which is only allowed because we're still at war. And really, war, isn't that like causing a lot of the strife? Lots of money is going for war, unjust war, wars we were lied into, wars of conquest, wars of empire. If we don't get any benefit from it, if we don't get diplomatic benefit, if we don't get good graces from the world, and we don't get any resources, what are we doing? What are we doing? It's a bad business deal, right? We could have bought Iraq for the amount of money that we spent on it. And I'm already against the next war. I'm anti-war. So these are the Democratic candidates, Jack Conway and Jeff Young. And I'll tell you about Jeff Young. Jeff Young is a great man. Jeff Young is principled. He's passionate. He's intelligent. He's smart. Jeff Young, he heard that Jack Conway was suing the EPA, and he made his entire livelihood. Oh, I think that's what I got to make sure that's the right thing. But that was the big thing that got Jeff Young into the race. Jack Conway sued the EPA, and then you had the Herald, or you had one of the big media sit there and say, quoted Jack Conway, that he doesn't mind saying that he voted for Obama, and then he sued him. So you got, if you're going to be a Kentucky politician, right off the bat, you got to throw Obama just right under the bus. You voted for him, but then you sued him, right? And he just sued him like 2 years ago, so I'm pretty sure him running for governor, he, put the pulse of the political winds. He figured out what the political winds were, and that's why he's suing the EPA. But that just shows you that he doesn't have a moral consistency. He doesn't have convictions. He doesn't have a moral core which says this is good and this is bad. He believes in global warming. He also believes in gay marriage. Both of these are good things, great things. He's intelligent. He's smart. So he's smarter than this, and he's better than this. And he's also been acting like Jeff Young isn't even running in the election. So he's not a big democracy proponent, which is frustrating. I want to mention two other things too, because the Iraq War, he also switched on. So, he's flip-flopping. He was totally for the Iraq War. 10 years later, he changes his mind. He's totally for the EPA, and then 10 years later, he changes his mind. Now, the big thing that I want to mention about the EPA, Nixon started the EPA. So that would make Jack Conway to the right of Nixon. And also the big legalization of marijuana question, that would also, with Jack Conway's position, which has been the last 8 years, to declare a war on the people of Kentucky. Even though we don't have the money, we don't have the resources, and you haven't done anything to stop the war on drugs. It's been going 100 years strong. We're moonshiners, you know. You can't mess with the hill people. But the North Korea has legalized marijuana. North Korea. So that actually means Jack Conway is to the right of Kim Jong-il. Kim Jong-il is like Mr. Fascist Totalitarian Dictatorship. Jack Conway's position on the legalization of marijuana is to the right of Kim Jong-il. He's like part of the axis of evil, right? He's like this horrible bad guy, and his country is devastated, and it's like the worst evil in the nation, which, you know, he's not a nice guy. I'm not defending Kim Jong-il in the least. And I don't want to overstate, you know, this case. Jack Conway's more totalitarian, more fascist. No, it was a joke. But it's a very poignant, you know, sentence about the issues. And that's what we need to talk about. Kentucky has a lot of issues. There's a lot of problems in Kentucky. Number one for pollution. Number one for cancer. Number one for mental health illnesses. Number one for child deaths and child abuse cases. Number one for fastest growing prisons. Number one for just just think of any statistics, and we're probably ranking on the bottom of it. Right now we got a very intelligent young, the class of 2014 are very smart. The people who are just graduating in 2013, I read the study that actually said that they're the 10th smartest in the nation. So we have the youth, we have young people coming up, and under a young master's ticket, I will be pushing for gyms and sports arenas and basketball goals, and, you know, just get active, Kentucky. We need to. We're the least healthiest state. We're unhealthy. We don't go exercising. We don't go bike riding. We're not eating healthy. We're smoking all the time. We're drinking all the time. We're eating all these fatty foods, and we're not taking care of our bodies. And so we need a healthy, strong minds required a healthy, strong body. So we need to get into a fitness flow. We need to get into a health flow. And it's just something that we need to work on, the culture of Kentucky. Let's not have a culture of ignorance anymore. Let's pay attention to what we're putting into our bodies. Let's pay attention to what we're talking about. Let's honor intelligence and scientific inquiry and logic and reason. These are the only things we have. And so if we can't even honor those things, then we're more than 20 years behind. You know, we're back in Mark Twain's era. Or perhaps, you know, even farther than then. Maybe we're back in the archaic Indian phase. So that's the declared candidates right now. Jack Conway versus Jeff Young. 50-50 shot, right? It's either heads or tails. Either Conway or Young. And those are the two choices. So, you know, Jack Conway, he seems like he's aiming to be moderate. He's going to be running to the right. That's what every one of these Democratic candidates have done to try to beat the Republicans. So what Jeff Young candidacy is going to do, it's going to divide the honest, true blue progressive Democrats with the Republican corporatist Democrats. There's the elite, the people who only care about the wealthy and the rich, and they want to have casino-style, laissez-faire capitalism. Dog eat dog, every man for himself. They want to turn Kentucky into Haiti. Pure capitalism, no social spending, no money for roads or bridges or schools or hospitals or healthcare or education or childcare or sick days or anything. Nothing. They will spend money on the people for nothing. If the banks, you know, fail, they'll definitely bail them out. And they're going to bail themselves out of this pension problem. They're going to give themselves a loan. And they're going to try to gamble on the Wall Street and try to get some money. Then they're going to legalize casinos. And these are bad directions. While I believe that you have a right to casinos, just like I believe you have a right to drink alcohol, I believe casinos and alcohol are the downfall of Kentucky. And the legalization of marijuana and honest, good sense microeconomics is our asset. We are going to get better. You're going to see a richer, greener environment, better. Just, it's going to be, I mean, money doesn't solve all problems. But if you think you're free, go around having no money. How free are you in a capitalist society without any money? You're not free. It's all about the economics. It's all about the money. That's all it's about. And so if you want more money in your pockets, in your neighbor's pockets, your family's pockets, you would vote for Jeff Young. If you cared about the progress in Kentucky actually moving forward, you would vote for Jeff Young. Jeff Young's ideas are more progressive. He's going to stop the class war. He's going to defend the 99% over the 1%. He's talking about important issues. He's talking about abortion. He's talking about energy policy. And he's talking about racism. In Kentucky, we're talking about racism. That's amazing. That's great. Racism, it's stupid, right? It's socially constructed. Just stop doing it. Stop being racist. It's stupid. And that comes through, that's another McConnelling tactic. You just do anything and everything to win. It doesn't matter how low you stoop, as long as you can trick Kentucky voters to vote for you, even if it's the chickens voting for Colonel Sanders, the chickens voting against their self-interest, then go ahead and do that. That's okay. That's, they just want your vote, and they just want to give you whatever BS you're willing to hear. So that's the Democratic candidates. Now we have the Republican primary. We have Matt Bevin, businessman and candidate for U.S. Senate. His running mate is Janine Hampton, chair of the Bowling Green Southern Kentucky Tea Party and state house candidate in 2014. James Comer, agricultural commissioner of Kentucky. Running mate Christian McDaniel, state senator. Hal Heiner, former Louisville Metro councilman, nominee for mayor of Louisville in 2010. Running mate Casey Crosby, former Lexington Fayette Urban County Councilwoman and nominee for Kentucky State Treasurer in 2011. Will T. Scott, the former Associate Justice of the Kentucky Supreme Court. He actually stepped down from a high-paid position. He was making $140,000 working on the Supreme Court. Now he's running for governor, which makes like $110,000. He's not doing it for the money. He's doing it for his own personal private interest. Perhaps it's just his love for Kentucky. He just wants to see Kentucky progress. Or maybe he has ulterior motives. Who knows with any of these guys? You can't tell the difference between any of the Republicans with a microscope. They're all in favor of the Republican class war. They're totally, the Koch brothers are probably donating to each and every one of these guys. We know what the Republicans want. We know what they want: laissez-faire casino-style capitalism. No wonder they're all in favor of casinos. Will T. Scott says that's going to cure the pensions. Well, we didn't get casinos under a Democratic governor for the last 8 years. So what gives? What are we doing here? Anyways, Will T. Scott is running with Rodney Coffey, former Menifee County Sheriff. So that is Will T. Scott, Hal Heiner, James Comer, Matt Bevin. So those are the 4 Republicans who are running. The people who declined: Kathy Bailey, Andy Barr, Jess Correll, Richie Farmer, Ernie Fletcher, Trey Grayson, Brett Guthrie, Thomas Massey, Mitch McConnell, Phil Moffitt, Rand Paul, Robert Lee Rosier, and David L. Williams. So that's actually, that's quite fascinating. We see how the anatomy of a campaign happens. There's going to be an open seat, an open position. There's all these Republicans and Democrats who have ran in the past. They all get asked, hey, are you going to run for this seat here? They say, no, I'm not interested in it. And then, that says something. That just says one person isn't running for it. And then, then we have 4 million people here. So anybody that has the gumption, anybody that wants to run, you can still run for governor if you wanted to. You just file for an independent status and you'll be running for governor. And really, you don't, that's a high position to achieve. But you could run for mayor, city council, magistrate, soil and water conservation district supervisor. That's the only position an 18-year-old could run for. And really, all the age limits need to be dropped to 18 years old. If you're an adult and you could fight and die in unjust wars in overseas countries fighting for freedom and democracy, you should be allowed to run for city council. You should be allowed to run for office of higher power. So that's absolutely ridiculous. We need to have a more balanced and more fair system. And having more 18-year-olds and more young people, having more young people in politics will just make it better. Just like having more women, more black people, the more diverse, the more multicultural, the more, the more varied opinions that you have. It doesn't even matter, your the identity of yourself. It matters if you have good ideas and if those ideas will be progressive and they will move Kentucky forward and they'll work. So if you have good, workable, achievable ideas, then you should run. You should run for office. You should understand. You should be a voice in your community, as a candidate. So, anyways, those are all the people that declined. So I guess James Comer and Matt Bevin are probably the two strongest candidates in this race. Hal Heiner's a millionaire, got a ton of money. Will T. Scott has, political credibility. He's been around for quite some time. So this is an incredible four-way race. And the Democrats are going to I think the Republicans are going to make the Democrats look silly if the Democrats cannot get a debate. Get a Lincoln Douglas style debate. Have a series of debates talking about the issues that we don't have to get dirty. We don't have to throw mud. Let's just have a gentleman's conversation about the issues. Here's Kentucky's problems. Here are the solutions. Here's where Kentucky is now. Here's where we want Kentucky to go in 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years. Make 50-year projections. And don't have a coordination failure. The last I heard with Appalachia, 30% unemployed. There's people in Letcher County that don't even have running water. They don't have running water in coal country. Kentucky is centrally located in the United States, the richest nation in the world. Kentucky has more streams and creeks than any other state. We have the big Ohio River. So we have access to the oceans. We have transportation, trucks, and airplanes, just like anybody else. The Kentucky has coal, Ohio River, centrally located, lots of people, lots of hillsides, lots of trees and lands and forest, lakes, streams, creeks, ponds. So we have a lot of good things to work with to begin with. And for us to have homelessness or poverty, it's absolute bullshit. It's absolute bullshit. If we were serious about curing poverty, and we actually sat down, I think I'd be happy with just a debate with Sandy Overly just about poverty, just about the economics, just about class war. What are we going to do? How are we going to get Kentucky to get into the 21st century, not Renaissance, but the Enlightenment? We want to get to the Enlightenment. But in order to wake a sleeping people, to move a sleeping people, you got to wake them up. You got to wake them up. And that's what I want to do. I want to wake the people up. And also, Jeff Young is a kick-ass. He's a badass candidate. He will dictate what the platform is for the Democratic Party for decades to come. So he should make a nice, concise list and talk about all the issues that Kentucky can achieve. Okay, so there's even endorsements. James Comer's already got a bunch of endorsements. Jim Bunning, who started going a little senile at the very end of his tenure. Julie Denton, who's really mean, but she also is the one who got CBD passed. She's a Republican. The Republicans have been the ones who got hemp and CBD medical marijuana passed in Kentucky. In Northup, Ron Lewis, Thomas Massey, Ed Whitfield, all these guys have endorsed James Comer. So he's been working the streets. He's been hustling. He's been getting people to endorse him. And I guess any person is capable of endorsing someone else. There's, I'm going to vote for you, and then there's, I endorse you. Everybody should vote for him. There's the secret. I'm probably going to vote in secret on that. I'm not going to tell you. I'm going to, I'm going to be like Allison. I'm not going to tell you who I voted for. That's private. That's private. How dare you? Don't ever ask me who I voted for. So that's Associated General Contractors. And then Hal Heiner's got Rebecca Jackson and Kentucky Pastors Action Coalition, which I think he did that's in West Louisville, and that was he got a bunch of pastors that were supporting his plan for charter schools and vouchers and giving private vouchers to individuals to give to their school of choice, whether it be private or public. And school choice is an incredible issue. I'm in favor of school choice. I believe in universal education, but I believe that it's totalitarian fascism. It's 100% compliance. They don't care about developing the actual individual, and I believe children have rights. They have children's rights. They're not full adults, but they have children's rights. In Tinker v. Des Moines, you're allowed to protest the Vietnam War by wearing a button. You're allowed to wear a button. You're allowed to wear an armband. You're allowed to wear, some type of distinction, whether people know it or don't know it, that says that you're in favor or against a particular issue. You have a right to free speech. If you're a student in Kentucky, you are an American, and the federal government will protect your Bill of Rights. So these are the people that had, endorsed the Republicans. I guess the other candidates have no endorsements if you're to, base it all on Wikipedia. Independent candidates declared as Drew Curtis, entrepreneur and founder and CEO of Fark.com. This guy, I probably should have started off with this guy because he's really exciting. Drew Curtis is going to be running with Heather Curtis, and she's the COO of Fark.com. So it's a husband and wife team. What a great idea. Husband and wife running the state of Kentucky. That's beautiful. Drew Curtis has absolutely taken the headlines by jumping in the race before the date, but he's as an independent candidate. So he's actually going to ignore the Koch brother primaries, and he's going to run as an independent. So he don't have to even go through the primary. He's going to battle whoever the Democrat or the Republican nominee is. So they're going to be seasoned political veterans who had beat somebody in an election already. The Republican and the Democratic choice for a candidate when it comes to governor. But Drew Curtis will not. Regardless, he's going to take enough votes away. He could be a swing candidate. He can take enough independents or Republican or conservatives or liberals, depending on what his issues actually are. He is a player. He's a player. And at the very least, he could throw the election one way or the other, or at the very most, he can win the whole thing. And he's very appealable. He's very he's a cool guy. Drew Curtis wants your Farkin vote. I mean, his declaration is funny. He seems he's not a troll. He's the king of the Commonwealth of Kentucky. He had this comedy video which announced that he was running for office. He's already put the papers in. He's running with his wife. The couple things that he says that we need to pay attention to, and this is like very important because you got Curtis, right? So this Drew Curtis, he runs Fark.com. Fark.com is a news aggregator. He picks a bunch of articles he likes, and he posts it up for everybody to read. Funny articles, funny pictures, and he posts it up for everybody to read. And he's made money doing this, and he's made a living. So he's independent. And so I don't know if he's going to try to get money, outside help or not. But if he doesn't have to, he would be unbought. And the only candidate who's unbought, unpaid for, without any contributions, none from the corporations, none from the poor people. He is totally self-reliant, radically self-reliant. Can only, just support and just take care of himself, can support himself and, can be self-sufficient. So I'm running for governor because if I get elected, the vicious cycle of influence, money, and politics grinds to a halt. Drew Curtis thinks that he's got enough of a reach and has enough of a chance to win the governor's chair. And he believes that if he wins, then the influence of money and politics grinds to a halt. And he's absolutely right about that. If he takes no donations and he wins, then everybody who, took all these Koch brother donations and the, big coal operators and the anti-union, the anti-working class corporations and wealthy bankers, any of these guys, that's who the Republicans are going to be for. So what kind of Democrat are you? A corporatist Republican Democrat or a progressive Jesus Christ-like good guy Democrat? Those are the choices. And if you're a corporatist Republican Democrat, you're not a Democrat. You're a Republican. Just call yourself a Republican. It's been a Democratic state for a long time, but people have been secretly Republican, their whole lives, ever since the Civil Rights Act. They thought the Democratic Party left them because they're not racist anymore. So all the racists jumped the Democratic ship and went to the Republicans. And the parties have been switched ever since 1964. So there's more interesting things that Mr. Fark, Drew Curtis, is saying. He says, I don't have beliefs on issues of economics. I'm more or less agnostic on social issues, and I'm far more excited about retooling the executive branch to better interface with customers than anything else. The boring stuff is the most important stuff. It doesn't grab headlines, but it's the part of being governor I really want to sink my teeth into. Now, I'm going to repeat this because this is what should dictate the entire campaign, Kentucky's governor campaign. He says, I don't have belief on issues of economics. He needs to have some beliefs of economics. What is your economic theory? What is your theory of government? How do you believe Government are you a Keynesian? Do you think government can intervene when it comes to the economics, or are you, Milton Friedman and just want government to, help with disputes with corporations? You want a thin government, or do you want, a big fat government, right? You want a nice thin that you can't get rid of government. I mean, you could try, and you probably should question a lot of the things that government and the state does, but they seem to be pretty persistent. They seem to be pretty. They're survivors. I think, if the end of the world was to come, one day, the only thing that would survive would be cockroaches and government. So, I guess the cockroaches be paying taxes. I don't know. Anyways, he's agnostic on social issues. He don't care. Are you gay? I don't care. You for legalization? I don't care. I don't care. So that's I don't know if he's saying he doesn't have opinions or views about it, or if he's saying that he doesn't care, so do what you want. And I would think, being an internet guy, being a sort of a postmodernist, he seems like a new age guy. He would be in favor of a lot of restrictions that the older population believe in. So the boring stuff is the most important stuff. He's absolutely right. He wants to retool the executive branch to better interface with customers. So that already kind of tells me his economics right there. So he wants to retool the executive branch to better interface. So he's talking about websites. He wants to have a website for the executive branch that can directly give services, offer products, whatever it is the government does. He wants to directly get the customers. He doesn't call us citizens, he calls us customers. And in a way, we need to be happy with our representatives. And we are sort of customers, but we're more subjects than we are customers. We're customers during the election phase, but then we become subjects once the pleasant charade of campaigning wears off. Because they care about your vote before the election day, right? Right afterwards, they're going to do whatever they want. That's what politicians do. That's what they always do. So I think that's a really good idea. He's methodical, he's scientific, he's logical, he's reasonable. He wants the executive office, the governor's office, to interface with citizens, with the customers better, with the customer citizens. And I think that just makes more sense. I like what he made me think about, since he's like an internet guy. He made me think about, why don't we actually figure out what the problems of Kentucky are, and then what are the best solutions? There's an internet generation. We can have a really intelligent, smart conversation about this. What are the problems? Let's agree on the problems. And when we find out what the most pressing problems are, then we'll figure out the solutions. That's just politics 101, this government 101. Mitch McConnell does show us that the theater of politics and the governance, the political theory is different than the political governance. And that's ridiculous. That's so stupid. If you can run government well, you deserve to keep your seat. If you're a crappy representative for the people, you don't deserve to keep your seat. Politics 101. Okay. So it's watch this video. It's hilarious. He's a very likable guy. Father, husband, wife, couple, going to run Kentucky. I think Drew Curtis has a very good chance. I don't know if Hal Heiner, or he did take a shot at Hal Heiner, saying that he's not going to be a millionaire, pretending to be an outsider. But if Hal Heiner or Jack Conway are the nominees, I don't think they could beat Drew Curtis. I don't think James Comer could beat Drew Curtis. I don't think that Matt Bevin can beat Drew Curtis. I think Drew Curtis is a contender. So I think it'd be a close race between, the stronger candidates. But I don't believe there's any one horse in this race that is going to win. There's not one guaranteed winner in this race. It's a toss-up between Republicans and Democrats. And the Republicans have 4 candidates. There's 1 independent and then 2 Democrats. So that is 7 people, right? There's 7 people running for governor right now. 7 people. And you, as a Kentucky voter, if you're a Democrat, study the Democrats. If you're a Republican, study the Republicans. And then after the primary, study all the independents in addition to the Democrat and the Republicans. and have a conversation. Kentucky, that is what we need, to have a good conversation. And I said gentlemen, but gentle people, gentle women too. We all need to have a conversation. What is it that we're doing? How are we going to get better? What are the problems? What are the solutions? What are the things that we're doing right? What we are doing right can fix what we are doing wrong. What is good about Kentucky can fix what is bad about Kentucky. And so you never want to throw out the good because it's not perfect. Because, Obama's a transformational president. So regardless of really what he did, he changed the game just by, taking the Oval Office and taking the seat and being the president. He fulfilled that role. He led. He did his job. And he's transformational, right? For many reasons. His name, his policies, his skin color. And that's definitely a break with the old established government and something new. So, anyways, the problem with Democrats, because something Obama did very well with Hillary Clinton, was that Democrats do not speak up for their convictions. They don't take their licks. They don't stand up for the issues they believe in and take their licks. They run to the right. They do this all the time. Republicans and Democrats, once the general election happens, the primaries are over, they run towards each other. The conservatives have to talk their conservative values to their primary base, and then the Democrats have to talk their issues to their primary base. And then once they're finished having that discussion, then the Democrats run to the right and the Republicans run to the left, and you can't tell a difference between the two candidates. There are only going to be a few issues. There's only going to be a few ways that you can differentiate between candidate A or candidate B. Tweedledee and Tweedledum. Which one is the lesser of the two evils? And I'd rather vote for somebody that I believed in and not got it than vote for someone I didn't believe in and got that. Oh, I voted for the lesser of the evil. I voted for, the lesser evil. And I got evil. So I win. Winner, I win. I got lesser evil. So, we could change the game and we could have a good conversation. I would like to have a good conversation. I'd like to have Lincoln Douglas debates with Sandy Overly. This is my first public comments after filing for. I did speak to the Ledger Independent and then the Herald Ledger and then the Courier Journal, but they didn't quote or show anything of me. And it already seems like they're, big media's looking for the blood. They're a hit job media, gotcha media, corporate media, always looking for the blood. They just want sensational, BS, the same stupid crap. And really, we need to just stick with the issues. We got poverty issues, pollution issues, mental health issues. We have, we got literacy issues. In fact, you should pick up, Kentucky's frontiers and how the West was lost, and read Gatewood Galbraith. Read all the Gatewood Galbraith you can read. So, he's saying that I have opinions on economic issues that I'm willing to change if some better data comes along. He's just so smart, man. He says if better data comes along and says that this plan is better than this plan, then he'll go with the better plan. If you have good reasons, you have good ideas, and you have reasons that back up those ideas, in a democracy, the minority have their say and the majority get their way. The minority have their say and the majority get their way. We all have a right to say something. And in fact, when you censor somebody, if you try to censor Anne Frank, if you try to censor, Emma Goldman, if you try to censor anybody, then you are depriving the listener and the speaker of the consideration for the idea. And in the great pool of ideas, the best ideas should prevail. In the great pool of ideas, the best ideas should prevail. The best ones. So I bet there is a scientific process that you could come up with and say, here are the top 10 issues. Let's say poverty. Poverty is one of the biggest issues Kentucky is confronted with. So here's 10 solutions. Here's 10 possible solutions for poverty. Now let's vote and scientifically vote. That would be how you would do it. You would have surveys. Pass this out to thoughtful people and ask them which one of the 10 plans they believe will cure poverty and abolish poverty and get rid of poverty in 5 to 10 years. And the plans that they choose, I guarantee you, would be the better plans out of those bunch. They might not pick the best one. They might not do the bold ones, and they might do incremental ones, slight change. Which I think that I think a bold problem requires a bold solution. But the the voting of it, the scientific process of it, you could come up with what the problems are, you can come up with the solutions, and that would be the conversation, the ideal conversation that I would love to have with the state of Kentucky. And so I'm going to enjoy this race, and I guess that's about it. Let's see, if you like so and so, he will end this or that. I have opinions on economic issues that I'm willing to change if better data comes along. So that's smart. And he's got a scientific mind. He doesn't like how political parties use their so-called campaign issues as an exclusionary tool. So there's always wedge issues, right? They'll sit there and talk about, Republicans have been talking about abortion their whole lives. Abortion this, abortion that. But they don't care about abortion. They haven't tried to pass anything. They haven't changed abortion. They haven't changed the laws. They're not going to change anything. The abortion laws are actually very compromised. They're very moderate. They represent both sides. And it's going to stay the same. It's going to stay the same. And so the Republicans have been disingenuous. They've been using that as a wedge issue. Well, I believe in pro-life. But they don't. They believe in pro-choice, and then once you're born, you got, get a job immediately, baby. No, baby, you get no child care, you get no health care, no education. The government needs to be, lean and small. We don't need any government. No social spending for you. No WIC for you. No LIHEAP for you. No food stamps, no housing, welfare, nothing. No social security. You get nothing, baby. You get out there and you hustle. This is Haiti. This is casino-style capitalism, dog-eat-dog, laissez-faire, Russian roulette capitalism. This is what, we are faced with. They're using shock doctrine on us. Mitch McConnell said he was going to parcel Kentucky out, sell us piece by piece, make us all in the cheap labor. And that's just how it's going to be. Kentucky's just going to have to accept it, just like Haiti. It'll be great for the 1%. It'll be great for the ultra-rich. But it won't be good for the working classes or the middle classes or the poor or the homeless. I believe if there's a robust middle class, people are buying and selling, there's hustle and bustle. Some people would get mad that we don't have a free market. I would like to actually get into a free market economy. Free market would say that you're allowed to sell stuff on your front lawn. You're allowed to have yard sales any time of the week. Any day, time of the week, you can have a yard sale. And you should have yard sales. We should be selling stuff to each other. Why not? Well, we have to have a manufacturing thing that does something and then put it in a flashy box and package and put it into a big department store. So that way retailers, distributors, factories, all of them get a cut. Why don't we just go get it wholesale? Go straight to the farm. Go straight to the factory. Go straight to the producer. The one who's increasing GDP. By going straight to the producer, you're getting, basically the straw out of the horse's mouth or something. You're getting the product that comes right out of the line. It's not being handled. It's not being bounced around or anything. You're getting the person who made the thing you're the one buying it from them. We should have websites all over the place, actually, for if you want to buy a roll of steel, if you want to buy some chemicals from Adochem or that chemical plants in Carroll County. If you want to get something from these factories, there should be a way for the consumers to go straight to the manufacturer. It makes so much sense. Cut out the middleman and sell directly to the customers. So I got ideas about economics too. I think we can have a socialist capitalist system just like all the social democracy countries in Europe. Not all of them, but the majority of them. The Scandinavian countries, the Baltic Sea countries. Switzerland, UK, Ireland, France, Spain, Portugal, Germany, definitely, Netherlands, Qatar, Liechtenstein, Suriname. That's Asia. But any country that's doing well in any indication, high wages, high GDP per capita, high income per capita, any high indication of any list, we should look at what other countries are doing better and do those things and see what their struggles are, see what their problems are, and make sure we avoid those things. In the great pool of ideas, the best ideas should prevail. Of course it should. Scientifically, it should just prevail. If this idea is better than this idea. Like casino, legalizing casino to solve the pension plan or borrowing money. That is what Stumbo and Frankfurt's going to do. They're going to borrow money to gamble on Wall Street, mutual funds or something, get a bond, borrow money, and then start making money off the money that they borrow. So they're actually digging into debt, trying to get out of debt, which some people think is a contradiction. But I think we can actually have 3 times a deficit 3 times the GDP. And that's what Japan does, and they haven't sunk. And so we can, I think that's not a bad idea. It'll make money, but I don't know if it'll cover the large shortfall. The pension program is like, it's like trillions of dollars in debt or something. I don't know, but it's an issue. There's no pensions for the teachers. They paid all this money in. Frankfurt gambled it away or borrowed it or stole it or something. I don't know what happened to it, but it's not there anymore, and so there's a shortfall. And so just those 2 issues. Do you think casinos, or do you think getting a bond and gambling on Wall Street would be a better idea to solve the pension crisis? And I think that's I think those are actually 2 equal ideas. I think that would be a good poll. I think that would be interesting, and I would believe the public. I would believe what the public says. If someone actually took their time and thought about it, well, let's see. Casinos, they make a bunch of money. Casinos they basically win all of it, right? If you walk in with $1,000, that's theirs. So if they can get people to get into their doors, the casinos are going to make money. There's going to be money to be made with licenses, and there's going to be money to be made with taxes on food, services, and the like. As long as they don't give them any tax breaks, this is Kentucky casinos. So actually, the state should own these casinos, just like Somerset owns the gas station, like Boone County owns the golf course, just like Corinth owns fiber optic internet. So that's what we're Drew Curtis is kicking ass, taking names. And I think we should follow his lead. I think he's actually thinking very level-headed and smart. It's not about attack politics. It's not about playing Rand Paul, Mitch McConnell type politics. It's about having a conversation that's going to advance Kentucky. And that conversation, if that respectful conversation can be had between any of the candidates running, that will benefit Kentucky for decades to come. So that's enough for today. That's enough for right now. Been speaking for 46 minutes. So, you'll get richer and you'll get greener with Jeff Young. Jeff Young will set the tone for the Democratic discussion and the debate and the agenda of everything that the Democrats are going to talk about. Jack Conway's doing anything and everything in order to ignore Jeff Young, pretend he doesn't have an opponent, doesn't care for democracy, doesn't care about debates. He's Mitch McConnell. He's playing Mitch's games. Mitch is all about attack politics. Been doing it for 30 years. That's how he got his job. That's how he kept his job. I don't know anything he's done. I was 2 years old when Mitch McConnell was first elected, took Dee Huddleston's spot with an attack ad. 2 years old. I've had the same stupid, evil, immoral, corporate, wealthy, banker, loving, 99% hating U.S. Senator. And I have seen a wave of republicanism, in the last 30 years. So that's like the Republicans always felt like they was the underdog. All these Democrats everywhere. Oh my God, this whole state's filled with Democrats. But now it seems like it's a safely red state for national politics, and now the state politics is aiming to get it all red. So the Democratic Party needs to revamp and retool, find out what the mistakes were with Allison Lundergan Grimes and Mitch McConnell, and don't make those mistakes anymore. We can revitalize the party, get young people out to vote, increase voter turnout, and hopefully we have this conversation, this dream conversation that I would love to have with Sandy Overly or with Drew Curtis's wife, because they will both be lieutenant governors, and his wife's name is Heather, I think. So I would love to have that. Would be a fun debate, a 3-way debate. Some moderator picks the questions, audience picks the questions. We can ask each other questions. I don't care. We can have it at a podium. We can have a sit down, KET type of little chit chat. Whatever floats their boat. And I'm not for sure. I'm gonna find the wife's name because she's running for lieutenant governor. So this is Heather Curtis. So Drew and Heather Curtis, adorable couple. Young, successful, has unique ideas. I welcome Drew and Heather Curtis into the conversation, and I hope they actually elevate the political game of Kentucky for 2015. So, and don't forget to go vote. That's I noticed there's 30% turnout rate, very low turnout rates. We need voters. Just go out and vote. I mean, I don't vote for yourself. If you don't like any of the candidates, vote for yourself. It's, people have died for this, the right to vote, the right to have a choice in your democracy, in your government, to be able to pick your political leaders. And it's, it's you don't have to do it, but as an American, you should do it. And if you're not even voting, you're probably not even running for office, talking about the issues, talking about the candidates. You probably don't even know any civics, And I'd like to elevate the game. I would like to get more people understanding civics, understanding the duties of the county positions, to understanding politics, the way we should do things, how we should talk, and the good ideas versus the bad ideas. Just I guess I'm like Hunter Thompson. I'm like Hunter S. Thompson in that regard. I'm a political junkie, and I like Hunter S. Thompson. There's a lot of liberal heroes. I really like Allison Lonergan Grimes too. She actually stayed in Kentucky, right? Allison Grimes stayed in Kentucky. She didn't go all Hollywood. She didn't go all Johnny Depp and George Clooney, right? She stayed here and did the hard work. And, as Secretary of State, she's been wonderful. I cannot argue about anything she's done with Secretary of State. I've got registered to vote. The votes have been counted. The vote, the voting machines were passed out. People watched it. There was a Democrat, Republican in every precinct, at every voting booth, making sure that there is no shenanigans going on. It stays up to date. It's very efficient. She's doing a good job. So, Allison Grimes, you ran a tough campaign, and I see what you did. You kept your hand close, like a sort of like a conservative, and I think you ran to the right. And I've been making a joke about whether you actually voted for McCain, because you're in favor of fracking, you're in favor of the Keystone Pipeline. Seemed like he was more in love with coal than he was pro-gun. And I don't even hate all those issues. It's just that those are Republican issues. So the only Democratic thing that I heard out of you was minimum wage and women's rights. And that was it. And I wish you would have spoke up more about your principled convictions, taking your licks, take your positions. And, people are going to complain about you no matter what. They will hate you just for existing, right? Even if you've done nothing wrong, they will hate you. And so if there is something, if you actually put, hey, this is an issue I believe in, they're going to hate that too. They're going to hate you for nothing. They're going to hate you for something. And so if you're going to be hated or loved, smile through it all anyways, but why not just be yourself? Why not just speak for the ideas that you believe in? Take, Barack and Hillary was a good example that I want to point out. Kentucky totally missed the lessons of Barack Obama. 6 counties voted for Barack Obama, and then 4 counties, right? So like out of 120, there was only like 4 people that voted for Barack Obama. It's a very racist state, right? Clearly, that's the reason. But now, more importantly, what America saw that Kentucky didn't see was that Barack Obama was more populist, more progressive. He ran to the left of Hillary Clinton, and he won. He snuck in out of nowhere. Hillary was the presumptive nominee, just like now, just like today. And then a progressive came up and they beat Hillary. And I bet you if Hillary runs again, that's going to be the same formula that they will use in the Democratic primary. They will use a Democrat that will be progressive and speak about the issues that will be to the left of Hillary, and that will be the Democratic nominee, a Elizabeth Warren or a Bernie Sanders. And that would be a dream. God, that would be so awesome to have that ticket, Sanders-Warren ticket. But we could see somebody else emerge out of the bunch too. So, Kentucky elections are going to be before the presidential election. So Kentucky elections are actually going to be real big. And I guess that's about it. Let's have a good, friendly conversation. Let's have a respectful conversation. Let's talk about the problems. Let's talk about the solutions. And talk about what it is that we need in order to get it, right? If you've been in government, if you've been the Attorney General for the last 7 years, you work pretty close to the governor. Couldn't you have got any pieces of legislation that you wanted to be passed at any time you wanted? Hey, Governor, we're friends. Why don't you pass this thing that we both agree with? Okay, done. So he could have passed all the legislation that he wanted to pass, but he didn't. And so now, he wants the gauntlet. He wants all the power. And unfortunately, he's, Jack Conway's to the right of Nixon when it comes to EPA, and to the right of Kim Jong-un when it comes to the legalization of marijuana. indecisive with the Iraq War, indecisive with the EPA. He doesn't have the moral clarity to know that the Iraq War was based on lies and that there was fear mongering and that it was a dumb war. Barack Obama said it was a dumb war. It was a war of empires, a war of conquest. It was a war of retribution and revenge, not one for getting the Taliban. If we wanted to get the Al Qaeda terrorist that was in the 9/11 planes, we would have invaded Saudi Arabia. But you see, immediately Barack and Michelle fly to Saudi Arabia when their king dies. Right? They got kings over there. They're beheading people day in and day out. They're shooting women right in the top of the head. And this is our allies. These are the people that flew the plane into the World Trade Center, and we didn't do anything. They're our friends, they're our buddies. We made sure the Bin Ladens got out of the country, made sure they were well protected. They were the ones, the CIA and Ronald Reagan were the ones who give the weapons to Bin Laden anyways to fight the Russians in the Afghanistan war in the 1980s. And so, you know, it's 900 military bases, 150 countries. That's not fighting for your freedom. That's an empire. And so we if we're going to be an empire, we should go after the bad guys. Saudi Arabia created the 9/11 terrorists. We have more of a reason to have invaded Saudi Arabia than we do Yemen, Pakistan, Iraq, Iran, Honduras, or even Afghanistan. Saudi Arabia. We need to look at that relationship, and we probably should cut them off. Quit financing dictatorships. Cut off Israel and Egypt. Cut off Egypt. Cut off a lot of these guys. I'm sick of propping up dictators. That does not help America. By picking the devil we know instead of allowing democratic, popular leaders to take the helm and to do well. Just like Evo Morales. In 73, Kissinger and Nixon assassinated Salvador Allende just because he was popularly elected and he had a few socialist beliefs. That's ridiculous. There's only two economic systems. We can't do a little bit of both. We can't have salt trucks and schools and roads and fire departments and ambulances. Guess what? We have all that. We have libraries. Libraries are public libraries. That is socialism. That's socialism. And so, you know, we have a mixed system. We got partially socialist, partially capitalist. Let's have an honest conversation. That would be nice too. Have an honest conversation about the issues. Don't just be, you know, a McCarthyite sort of, you're a communist, you're a communist, you're a communist, you're a communist. Communism has failed. The engine of capitalism is very strong and vibrant. So why don't we do social democracies? Do a compromise. Let people live in the wealthiest country in the world for the bare minimum, have the basic necessities, and actually cut out any of the wasteful, bureaucratic, you know, all these other programs. Just give them a guaranteed minimum income. And then once their bottom rung of their Maslow's hierarchy of needs has been met, then we have capitalism and competition, and you go out and you hustle and you raise the GDP.